Good evening, everyone. I call this meeting. Can I go? Yeah, but I finished. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Call this meeting of the New Storm Town Council to order. Today is Monday, October 7th. It is 6:31 p.m. Can I have a motion to go into closed session, please? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. We are now in closed session.
I think too many.
That's really funny.
One and only person who thinks it's so gross. I think it was Sven.
Did you guys see the waves by Solviken today? That was about as nice. It just was beautiful. It was just beautiful. And there must have been 30 surfers out there. It was really great.
I'm being silly, of course I'm gonna do it. No, there's nobody else on the email. Okay, you, Barbie, Scott, Turtle, Nigel Campbell. Let's see. No, I think I got an email because I'm new.
You all set? Okay, terrific. Hi, everybody. We had a closed session today on a couple of litigation matters involving VVO where the town solicitors gave us an update on them, and the consensus of the council was to urge our solicitors to continue to work with council for VVO on resolution, constructive resolution. Can I have a motion to seal the minutes from our closed session, please?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. So back in the open, we have our public comment. Anybody wish to speak? No? Next, we have our consent agenda. I'm going to ask, I guess I should ask for a motion to remove little b on tax abatements, because some of those at the request of the assessors will be held until some future date.
Make a motion to remove B from the consent agenda.
Can I have a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. We'll take that up right after the consent calendar. So we have letters A, C, D, and the correspondence under D. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Now on item 3B, which was just removed, we have the following abatements. Barbara Goburn, Marianne Matthews, Andiamo LLC, Peggy Bull, Nature Conservancy.
Just ask you to remove the first.
Yeah, I'm going to go through what we have and then remove them. Smotrich, Kathy Ernst, Anthony Martin, Dorothy Finlay, and Andrew and Hillary Transu. The ones that the assessors asked us to remove are, correct me here, Millie, Barbara Goburn, Marianne Matthews. Is that it?
Yes.
So a motion would be in order to act on the following tax abatements. Andiamo LLC, Peggy Bull, Nature Conservancy, Smotrich, Kathy Ernst, Anthony Martin, Dorothy Finlay, and Andrew and Hillary Transit. Can I have a motion? There's all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. All set, Millie? Go clear. I need a motion to open a public hearing on the proposed new Shoreham zoning ordinance at Article 7. This is what would you say, like the 7th of 10? Something like that. I think, can I have a motion to open the hearing? Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
The public hearing is now open. Sorry, my daughter's calling me from Australia. Karen, do you want to open this one?
Sure. So this
Since
is
you
section,
don't appear to have any public wishing to speak.
not a surprise. This is section 702 and 708. This particular ordinance amendment is focused again on coming into compliance with the new state laws and also updating your current language to include unified development review. I think one thing that does kind of jump out is instead of a newspaper of general circulation in the town, it's now local circulation. That doesn't mean a whole lot in New Shoreham, but previously it was thought that notice had to be in like a statewide paper. That has now changed. The rest of the changes are again specific to the new state law and just identifying where unified development review is then going to happen and your proper permitting authority.
So I had one question about this one, and it may be taken care of in the first capital D, but are these pre-application conversations occurring open, or is this a meeting that takes place in someone's office?
They can be either. I've seen them done either way. Pre-application is generally an informal meeting. There's no decision that's made. It's not binding. It's usually a call or a meeting with your staff. I have also seen it where staff has referred pre-application meetings to the board, the permitting board, for the same type of information. But usually it's done with staff.
So the thing that worries me about this new process is it doesn't have, there are a couple of things, but one of them is a sense of surprise when something is well down the track. You know what I mean? That really kind of concerns me. And I don't know whether we can solve it given that this comports with state law. But I do wonder where those points are in this new process. Quite frankly, not even so much though you would offering people an opportunity to object, but even just offering an opportunity to know what's going on.
Yeah. So are you saying in terms of notification to the local board that may be hearing it?
Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm saying in terms of operationalizing my concern. What I'm saying is, I do worry that with a process now that is more focused on flexibility at the staff level rather than the board level, that the community know that there are potentially significant applications that are underway and being worked on.
Sure. So one answer to that is pre-application meetings are required for your major land
Right.
development or major
Yep.
subdivisions. That has to happen. And even if that is a meeting with the staff, that is still something that staff would become aware of. And then once the application is filed for those major type of projects, they would go on a publicly noticed agenda. For your minor or your administrative types of applications, the state law and this ordinance says that a pre-application meeting is held at the request, may be held. So it's not required, but it may be held at either the request of the municipality or the applicant. So there's still the opportunity for the town to request that pre-app for even minor projects. That gets you in the door for the pre-application. The actual public hearings aren't really changing that much, except to say that your administrative officer does now have the ability to approve more things. And sometimes that's just the way it's going to be now. And
Sure.
other times you have the choice in your ordinances to make that call. I will tell you that planning and your staff have consistently come out to say that they would rather have more things where the option exists go to the board. So
Right.
it would be public.
Yep. That's helpful. I mean, it leads into a concern that's not about these ordinances we're hearing tonight, but I'm a bit of a broken record on this. I really worry about whether we have sufficient infrastructure in that department to deal with this. I do, it's potentially a lot.
It's going to be a change.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna talk about that a lot.
We can talk about that tomorrow, so,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because no, I was gonna say, you're really pointing out two problems. One is staffing,
Yeah,
but the other is, I think, not something we can really solve for, but given the seasonal nature of a lot of our residents, you're right. People, if they weren't paying attention to their mail, right, because it says a first-class mailing, it's not certified. If you're not here for the winter and you're not paying attention to your mail, and maybe this letter didn't get forwarded, you could come back and find a building right on the other side of your property line in progress and be surprised by that and probably not thrilled. So, but that's not, I don't know whether.
I don't know that we can solve for it.
I don't think we can solve for
Yeah.
that, right? Like, this is the state's ruling.
Go ahead, Bill. It's a good question. Karen, can you answer that? Did you hear that?
I did not hear that
So
question.
what constitutes a minor matter?
Great question. So the statute has changed to list several things. I will pull that up while we're talking. And then they actually changed the statute. I think they might have changed it again, but that's not happening until next January. So right now, what constitutes minor is sorry. All right. So minor land development is any one of the following: 7,500 gross square feet of floor area of new commercial, manufacturing, or industrial development or less, or an expansion of up to 50% of existing floor area up to 10,000 square feet for commercial, manufacturing, or industrial structures. Mixed-use development consisting of up to 6 dwelling units and 2,500 gross square feet of commercial space or less. Multifamily residential or residential condo development of 9 units or less. Change in a use at a property where there's no extensive construction of improvements. An adaptive reuse project of up to 25,000 square feet located in a commercial zone where there's no extensive exterior construction, or an adaptive reuse project located in a residential zone that is less than 9 residential units.
It ain't changing the curtains.
Way that procedure could work with the building department that there can be a policy that goes to the board or whatever they want, if you felt it was better. I mean, some of those things sound.
Yeah.
As opposed to, can they you internally do a policy that go up to the board?
Karen?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing
So,
people.
Bill was asking,
Yeah. I thought it was.
Yeah, you really have to.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure, man.
good, yeah, ask her again. Thanks. So Bill asked, I'm Bill.
I had asked is there some policy that if the building department or whatever want to do it, that the policy would be that it goes through the board as opposed to, even though the law doesn't require it, can they enact an internal policy? Because some of these things being, you know, a little bigger than what I think most people would think is small.
Yeah, what kind of flexibility do we have, Karen, to require that something that is statutorily minor still go to the planning board?
Well, unfortunately, the law says that a community can increase but not decrease those thresholds for minor. So it's going to depend, frankly, if it goes to the planning board or not. And obviously, we're speaking in generalities. We're not speaking about any one project because every project is so different. But generally speaking, if it is minor and it, for some reason it just goes to even this is a hard question to answer, because if you have a project, say, that it's a minor, but it needs a modification or it needs zoning relief, that has to go to the planning board. An administrative subdivision, for example, would not. That would be done by your administrative board. A minor land development project that requires 2 stages, preliminary and final. The preliminary stage would go to the board, but the final stage would go to your staff, to administrative. So there's still a lot of things that the planning board is hearing with minor.
So the answer is not really.
The answer is the concern shouldn't be that great. And you cannot circumvent the law, except you can have an internal policy that increases the thresholds for minor, doesn't decrease them.
Gotcha.
But I think one of we're jumping ahead maybe. I think one of the concerns is not so much of having to go through whole board process, but just of people knowing what's happening next door without, because by the time they're in digging holes and putting in foundations, it's done. And if people don't even know. And I suppose that's the way the world operates. It just feels like it shouldn't be here.
Well, I guess, Karen, it sounds like, are we able, when you say increase, are we able to make it more stringent on notification? So if it says it requires regular mail, can we send them, require it as a policy to have it as certified mail?
A couple of things on that. You know, to the first question, you can't, notice doesn't get wrapped up into that, that language of increasing versus decreasing. That's only those several items that I listed that qualify for minor. Notice is a separate discussion. Certified mail, honestly, in my experience doing this for a while, is problematic. People get a certified mail and they don't want it. They don't want to go to the post office. They don't want to sign for it. They think it's something bad. It's not. So I actually do support the regular mail. That said, I am also always in favor of more notice, not less. I've never really seen an instance where more notice harmed anybody. Less notice, yes, all the time. So, I mean, that's something we could look at if you wanted to, if you wanted me, I can take a look at what the general notice requirements are now for you. I know that this new set of laws also included notice on your, like, the use of the town website for notices. And there are a couple of state statutes that say you can be put on a list to get notice of a specific project. That doesn't cure the issue. Like you said, if you live on the island, you go away and you come back, you may not know that there's a project happening. It really is incumbent on the public to stay up to speed. But if you would like, I can certainly take a look at, you know, what the general notice is that you're in your ordinance you're required to give now, and you can have a discussion, or we can go to planning and they can have a discussion about what if you want to change it. But to that extent, yes, you can do more notice. The certified mail, I wouldn't, not only for the reason I stated, but also because usually the costs of notice are borne by the applicant. And if certified mail is no longer required by statute, I think it would be problematic to force them to pay for that that particular notice. And again, I don't think it's as effective as regular mail.
I mean, I think generally speaking, I'm with you, Karen. I would like more notice rather than less. And I'm not even talking about I'm not talking about adding public hearings. I'm not talking about, you know, any of that stuff. I just think the more people know, the better, if only so that people can, you know, on staff can say, no, we actually we're quite public and transparent about that. That's my preference. David.
David Lewis. I'm referring to specifically to page 1, B2. Down at the bottom of that page, it talks about the same notice shall be posted in the town clerk's office and one other municipal building in the town. And the notice shall be accessible on the town's homepage of the website at least 14 days prior to the hearing, etc. I couldn't be happier to see the reference to the webpage. Some of these things have been a long time getting posted and visible on the town's website, and I hope this is just the beginning of many, many notices being published on the website. I think the concern I'm raising tonight is the requirement to post it on the town's homepage, which, you know, in my future visions, there'll be so many notices posted, you won't be able to find anything on the homepage. And I think we need to think in terms of a more structured manner of posting notices against organizational departments that are responsible for them, so that a person who's looking for something relative to planning knows to go to the planning department page area. And similarly with zoning, similarly with the Board of Taxes, the Board of Canvassers, for example. You get the point.
Yep.
And in previous discussions with this topic, I always use Heidi Tarbox as the rising star for this topic, because she does it very well on the Land Trust's website, specifically with regard to monthly property transactions. So that's a good place to look for reference. But in this particular instance, I think it's important that we not institutionalize the homepage at this point in time. And presumably this reference might exist in some of the other ordinances that are going to be discussed tonight. And I think that requires just a little bit more thought organizationally within the town staff's purview. And with the thought that we're considering it not just for planning, but for many, many other uses, including zoning enforcement notices of violation. Thank you.
David?
Yeah.
Don't you think accessible on the town's homepage website? It doesn't say on the website, it says accessible on or accessible from or what. I mean,
Well,
the land trust is accessible on the
On the
homepage.
Right.
It's not on the homepage, but it's accessible. And that's what
well,
this says.
I don't know what the intent of the author of these words meant when they used the word accessible.
Yeah.
I think accessible means whatever people want it to mean. You know, you try to figure out what accessibility means on your iPhone and you it covers 1,000 different things that don't necessarily refer to accessibility.
I just got a new phone, David. Don't even talk about phones.
If you want to know how to control my hearing aid, you talk about accessibility. I would never have known. I don't have a good answer to your question tonight, but I think we shouldn't be institutionalizing the wrong place in the ordinance. That's
Sure.
the point.
Good.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Socha?
Perhaps it might be helpful if we have a frequent opportunity to reflect on what the impact has been of these new regulations. So that we meet as a town council with all the boards or whatever, but keep a close eye on the impacts.
I agree. That's part of the reason we're doing that work session tomorrow is to, I mean, I think we've, and I think Karen has, I think Jen has, I mean, sort of banging the drum about the fact that these are potentially significant procedural changes and we're going to have to, and frankly, when a legislature does statute like this, tends to be revised more than once. So I think this is going to be a front of mind issue for quite a while. And we may have our own things that we decide really don't work and want to approach the legislature about. I don't know that now, but I agree with you. Yeah. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing? Sure. There a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. So before us is this item, zoning ordinance Article 7, permits, procedures, and enforcement, Section 702, general provisions, and Section 708, amendments to the ordinance. Can I have a motion to approve? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Can I have a motion to open the public, our next public hearing, which is on the next section, Article 7, permits, procedures, and enforcement, Section 703, procedures for a special use permit. I have a motion. Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The public hearing is open. Karen, do you want to do it the same way where you walk us through this?
Sure. So this one is specific to special use permits. It cleans up your existing language to include that sometimes the planning board under unified development review is able to grant special use permits. It also talks about, the submission process, and that is it. Very short.
The zoning board of review to permitting authority for clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Because just so people know, sometimes it's planning. Okay. Is there any public comment on this one? Any questions? Anything? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing? Oh, sorry, Molly.
So I just have one question. I'm just wondering, just for, to kind of clarify this for people at home, like, I don't want to put Jen on the hot seat, but I'm wondering if you could just explain to us, like, how this would change things procedurally for an applicant. Does it change things procedurally for an applicant? Does it speed up the process for them?
Speeds up the process because they don't go to the planning board as opposed to go to.
I'm sorry. Okay, so it speeds up the process because they don't have to go to both boards, they can go to one board. And then, but as far as like if you were a neighbor of a,
You still have a public hearing
you still have a public hearing, neighbors still are gonna be notified and, okay.
and it's advertised for 3 weeks in the paper and same process.
Right.
They just don't have to go to the zoning board, planning board, back to zoning and
So we're gonna, so it's this streamlining the process.
for unified development review.
Does this create a lot more work for your office or is it the same work that you had before?
Don't really know yet. I don't think, we've only had one application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, sorry, I don't mean to put you in the.
But yeah,
Thank you, Jen. Thank you for coming tonight. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing? Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. So before us now is this change, section 703 procedures for special use permit. Can I have a motion to approve this ordinance? Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Now we get to hold our third public hearing of the evening on Article 7, section 706 variance. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing? Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Karen?
Yeah, so this is on variances, just like special use permits. This brings in the language that you need to change for your current ordinance to include that it could also be the planning board that grants a variance under Unified Development Review. It also talks about the submission process if you are submitting for a variance under Unified Development Review. This one does have one additional kind of topic of change, I guess. The standard to grant a dimensional variance has changed under state law. That's the last paragraph. That's what those changes are.
Any public comment on this? Any questions from the council? All we have Karen's here. Can I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing, close the public hearing? Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. So before us, we have item 6 on our agenda before the council, which is modification of section 706 variance. Can I have a motion to approve this ordinance? A second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Item 7, act to set a public hearing for proposed zoning ordinance amendments. There's more. Billy, would you like to propose a date for us?
How about November 4th?
Fantastic. Can I have a motion to set a public hearing for, I've just lost my place. Comprehensive permits for low and moderate income housing, section 712. Second, although, this is for November 4th. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Millie, same date? Can I have a motion to set a November 4th public hearing date for hearing on chapter 17, taxation and finance? I'm going to read the whole thing. Article 2, exemption from taxes, division 2, elderly and disabled, section 17 to 35 applications, 17-36 abatement formula and rules and regulations for filing and approval, and 17-41 penalties. If I recall correctly, Amy, this is to do the updates we've been talking about?
Yes.
Yes. Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. It's
Aye.
November 4th as well. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. All righty. Item 10, right? Am I on 10, Millie? Did I jump? Oh, no, I just did. Oh, the veterans. Gotcha. Sorry. Same day? Let's make it a trifecta on November 4th. Everybody mark your calendar. Bill, mark your calendar. So November 4th. I have a motion to set November 4th as a public hearing date for.
I'm sorry, hold on. November 4th, yes. I'm going to be revising the notices to state 4 PM and not 7 PM.
Okay,
That's the night before the election, and you guys graciously chose to move that meeting time
yes,
so that we could, be ready and
Yes.
set up for the election the next day.
that was
Okay.
remarkably
Yes,
gracious,
so-
wasn't it?
Just note that when
Yes.
making the motion that it is at 4 PM.
It would be a motion to, at 4 PM on November 4th, hold the previous two hearings and this one. This one is on exemption from taxes, veterans, our authority and the effective date. Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying yes.
Did we ever, I know you have nothing else to do. Did you or Moen ever track down the abate exemption versus abatement?
Maybe more specific.
Why? I know there was a reason when this was initially done. Why one was an abatement, and one was an exempt.
No.
I'm gonna try to say the other way.
We did not go into the why it was structured, the way it was originally structured.
Okay, fine, that's fine.
Sorry.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Guys have it. Item 10, discuss and act on approval of short-term rental registration form. Thank you for your work on this, guys. This hits on the things that I recall. So thank you, Melody. I see.
If you don't mind. And yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Jen,
I'm sorry about that.
Jen did the majority of the work on this, although she.
Well,
did
thank
have
you
some
anyway, Millie.
assistance.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much. Any comments or questions on this one?
I had a couple questions. Because I read the example, right? You've used Millie as the example. But it wasn't like something you could play with because obviously the links aren't live and but I did have a question about, if someone was looking up their septic. Yes, right? So the link that I clicked on in an email, I don't think it was on ClerkBase. I think it was an email, took me to an active, like if you have a pending application for a septic system, not, I have a 30-year-old septic system. So is there a link for that?
There is, and we can double check, well, obviously double check the links before they go out to take 2 steps back for those who
Yeah.
may not understand the question that you're asking. Part of the application asks whether you have a septic or sewer. And if you do have a septic system, the application is asking you to upload a document that comes from DEM. And that document identifies the number of bedrooms that are associated with your septic system specifically. So you're going to pull that from the DEM website with a correct live link and then upload that document as part of your application. But we will make sure the link is good.
Anything to add?
It looks like it's for new applications, but it isn't. You put in your form and then you put in, so there's like 2 steps.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it was new. Yeah.
Wait, will you use the microphone? So I feel like this is something people. Okay, okay. I just feel like it's something people at home are going to want to hear, but what Jen is saying is that I did click on the correct link. I just didn't use it correctly.
And so accompanying the OpenGov application, which is where this application is submitted through the OpenGov platform that we use for building permits and other licensing in the town. There is also going to be a web page on the town's website that includes instructions. And it'll be things like identifying that that's a 2-step process and where the link is to get to DEM.
Perfect.
So.
Thank you.
So I had another question, which is, am I correct in saying that this is an application that has to be completed online?
It does have to be completed online. And so for those who either are unsure of that process or need some assistance or need a workstation, there is a public workstation here in Town Hall. And Town Hall staff, particularly in the building and the land use department, can facilitate processing of that application at the workstation here if people need that.
Terrific. So you need us to act on this?
Yes, it's part of the statute,
Oh, okay.
that it's in a
Can I have a
form.
motion to approve the short-term rental registration form? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you very much for your work, Jen.
Keith, can I take the opportunity just to reiterate that this is the new process for everyone, and particularly as application goes live, which will be sometime before October 15th. We do expect a high volume. You will not get a registration number immediately. It goes through a manual review process. So we do appreciate everybody's patience and understanding as the land use office processes the registration forms. So
Terrific. Thank you for bringing.
thank
that
you in
up.
advance.
Amy, let's bring it up again. Amy, would you like to take item 11 on the management agreement?
And so this is as a preview of the meeting the town council will hold next Monday with sewer and water commissions in their annual meeting. One of the things we do at that meeting generally is adopt a new management agreement for the upcoming year. This year, we are not under a management agreement. 2 Mondays?
2 Mondays.
Sorry, thank you. Sorry. I do see this as an opportunity to reset and regroup across all the parties. The sewer and water commissions did propose to the council a few minor amendments to the agreement. They're either things that we've already agreed to in other documents across the entities, or administrative changes, like names and positions. The town did not submit a proposal to increase the fees prior to the 9/1 deadline. So for the agreement that would be in front of us now, those fees would hold. But I do expect and would anticipate that next year we would propose an increase. I think a reasonable increase will be accepted by all parties. I think that makes sense. And I don't, we'll talk about it with the commissions, but I don't anticipate too much pushback. But it's not on the table for this year. But I didn't know if there were other topics the council wanted to raise in advance, anything that we can prepare for that meeting.
I feel like this got subsumed by some of the challenges that we had last year over a particular piece of litigation, and it sort of slid. So I really appreciate the opportunity to reset, and appreciate the work that both of those authorities do for us every day. Very important that we, I think that we have a productive and respectful relationship, because it's the work that they do is vital to the town.
Are we going to get an update on the construction of the new water tank? Yes.
I do expect that you will, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Any questions? This was helpful, I think, to put it on everybody's radar, have this out there. I expect it'll be a warm and productive meeting. Item 12. Neil, this was on weeks ago. This was something that you were interested in.
Yeah, so this all came out of the issue with the soil at the Bryack property, the airport, where large amounts of soil were taken out of the ground, moved to town property, and then moved, we don't know exactly where. And it was just the protocol with round and round and round for months with the state and RIAC without a definitive answer. We landed on it didn't need soil testing regardless of the amount of soil. In reviewing, and at the time, Marianne had shared, the town has no ownership of it. And in reviewing the ordinances, I found this ordinance and thought, does this give the town something in the future? Because there was the second time that the airport has removed lots of soil. And the same concerns, unbeknownst to me, bringing up the second time, a group of people had brought it up 2 years ago, and it went basically call RIAC and call DEM, which went round and round as well. So it was just clarification. Is there a need to make sure we have something in place, or do we need to? Maybe we decide we don't want it, but is there something either existing or do we want something additive that when it comes to this amount of soil, and I say this in air quotes from the standpoint of, is that quantifiable? If you're moving your childhood sand pit,
Sandbox,
well,
yeah, right.
obviously not, but if you're moving big amounts of soil, should there be something in place that is, regardless of who the party is, state, federal, there's something the town that says, hey, let's pause and just make sure we're looking out for our residents. So that was the concern, kind of why this came up. Now, in reviewing it, and this is Karen, maybe you can jump in here. I'm not a lawyer. There's lots of words that get confusing. And is there a need to even amend it, or is there something in here that already kind of states some control the town would have?
Obviously, if we want to go too much further with this, we need to refer it to the attorneys. In its reading, this is going to deal much more with controlling soil on the side of the property as opposed to being a threshold where a certain volume triggers actions A, B, and C, or review of characteristics. This is really going to manage the construction site and making sure that soil on the site is contained in a responsible way. So I think if the council wanted to move ahead down that path, that would be something we could pursue. But it really is going to take the group.
So for me, I have one question before you even get to what do we do, and that is whether we can do it. So, my sense is that RIAC has pretty broad state and federal control over what happens on their properties. So I would assume that if we were going to do something, we might well not have the authority to do anything within the confines of their lot. But as Neil says, what we may have control over is whether a bucket of it gets brought to Tristan's house, Not that happened, Tristan.
Or think about it this way, what if it wasn't the airport? What if it was the power company? Right? So what if,
Yeah,
like some other industrial area?
Yeah.
We don't know what people dumped in the ground years ago.
great.
So just a thought. I don't think it's a bad
I don't think we
thing to
do.
consider.
I mean, I think it's a worthwhile thing. You're right, Molly. I was thinking exclusively about RIAC, but there are others. And I don't know, maybe a thing to ask is, are there any towns that have a sort of a model?
A soil testing.
Yeah,
or
I
major.
mean, is there a town that has this kind of regime? What's that?
Talking about like the dump.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm sure that the state has something for that.
And if the council is interested in an island-wide approach, that's something we can look at is ordinances and examples from other communities. In the RIAC specific example, we are going to be limited in the scope of our authority. But if there's a broader interest, we can look into that.
Is this something we have to act on now?
No,
Okay.
no, it's something that sort of ought to be on our list, I think, of things. That's, I mean, the way that, when I think about this, I think about, Molly just raised one, Neil has been working on one for months. I'm more concerned about soil removal if you replace a fuel tank somewhere. Or, like, and we have something about that, right? Or the DEM certainly does.
You do start to trigger other
Right,
requirements.
right,
That weren't necessarily identified in this example.
right. So if, let's just sort of carry Molly's example, a mention of the power company. The power company decided that they wanted to move soil from behind one of their buildings to use it to grade somewhere elsewhere on the island. That just happens now, or that not. I'm not saying that they do it. You know what I'm saying. That there would be there's no ordinance construct that deals with that.
But didn't,
I'm just sort of.
but I thought the power company had done a significant amount of testing. Bill, you might know more about this. You don't know any more about this than I do. When we bought the power company. Because I remember there was that fear because of the old tanks, and much to everyone's astonishment, everything was okay.
That was all regulated by the DEM also.
Because there had been fuel oil there, right? Yeah.
It was also managed.
Right, underground storage, yeah, right. So what about I'm trying to think of an analogous situation to the RIAC situation. Fire department, police and fire, behind there have been vehicles that have been there for a long time. Somewhat analogous to the fuel oil at the airport. If we were to have to move a great deal of soil because we were building a new public safety facility, what would there be town rules around that? Or would we rely on DEM's rules? Or, I'm not quizzing you on this. I'm just sort of.
And that's something I can bring back
Do you think it's worth
a
looking at?
response to. And at what level would you want to get involved hypothetically in that situation?
Right.
If other testing requirements weren't triggered, meaning you haven't identified anything that puts up a red flag with DEM, state and federal statutes. Are you trying to draw something more narrow?
So I think my desire, if I were waving a magic wand on something like this, it would be, I don't know, you got a spot where leaded fuel has dripped out over the course of years behind a public safety building. And you might not want that soil to be spread on Molly's garden. Right? Is that I don't know if that's an answer to your question.
I think that provides a couple different examples where we can look at scenarios about what would happen today, and
Yeah.
then the council bring that back to the council and talk about.
I don't want to speak for you, but those are the things that.
That's kind of the gist of.
Yeah.
It's just having some controls, but it also comes into, you have to weigh the risk, right? If there's no risk, or,
Right.
do we really need to spend time on testing, and who absorbs that burden?
It's probably a 1 out of 100 thing, you know what I mean?
So it's obvious ones like RIAC just jumps out at me, because
Yeah.
at some point they're gonna need to redo the runway. Right now it's been the apron, but at some point do they do parts of the runway,
Mhm.
so. But I think the power company is another good example where there could be things that you'd be worried about.
Right.
And I thought when they talked about building the house, they did test
soil separate from purchase, that was after the purchase of it, but maybe I'm wrong.
My sense, oh, go ahead, sorry.
We
Mike.
had to it had to be tested.
No,
They had
that's what I'm saying. It
underground
was tested before
tanks.
the sale, and then I think it was tested,
Right.
portions were tested after it, but. It's just, again, I think we've got enough.
Right.
time, But
Yeah.
we can.
Terrific. Yes, please, David.
As I listen to the conversation and think about, scratch my own head as to what do I know in my lifetime? And when the day comes sooner rather than later that the state garage is rebuilt,
Right.
that's probably the
Better-
best example we've got that
Better-
hasn't gone through other more recent ownerships where people may or may not have mitigated.
Right.
Just-
That's a much better
I
example.
worked at John Thomas's gas station too, and that would be an obvious choice, but
Yeah,
it hasn't been a gas station for 20, 30 years.
right.
And a lot of other things have happened there before. I
Right.
mean, since then. So use the state garage as. the
Yeah.
question.
Good. That's a better example.
I think that land had to be tested,
I'm sure.
but recently,
The state.
the Sinclair.
Yeah, no, that, part of the conversation, I was thinking forward, not necessarily.
Mhm,
backwards.
mhm.
I'm not talking 30 years ago, David, I'm talking a couple of years ago.
We said, item 13, discuss an act on establishing a safety committee. I actually drafted something, that's not quite ready for prime time. So I will send that to you, Millie, to put on our next agenda with a proposed resolution.
Let me just back up.
Please.
It might be helpful if whenever land was tested, it was recorded here or put on
Yeah.
file somehow. So we wouldn't
That's a
be
really good point.
spending,
Yeah.
all this time talking about something that's been done. And, or find out that if we thought it had been and it hadn't.
Good point. Item 14, discuss an act on board commission and committees. Building committee for the public safety complex. Can I offer you an opinion on this? Or make a request? I don't know who should go on a building committee for a public safety complex. Will you put together a list of who it should be? I'd appoint Kim Gaffett. She'd be great, but I don't necessarily think that's what we need you, we need Paul Dean, we need Chris Hobie, you need, Mike Shea,
Yes.
so can you just, and if the council decides they want to add a public member to it, then great. But I fear that the direction that I might want to go, and not speaking for my colleagues, might not be the best group, and it needs to be relatively small and relatively nimble. It can't be like every meeting's a public hearing, and so anyway,
We'll bring that back to the next meeting.
thank you. Does that make sense to people? We still have vacancies, motor vehicles for hire, sewer, water. I was at a Byron meeting, a couple of weeks ago. It was full of people. And one of the things I said is, you have all these people who are interested in what's going on with this, what's going on with that. We have a lot of vacancies and we need people. So please, when you'll get tired of hearing me say it at these meetings, but it's so true. So please, folks, pay attention. Block Island Housing Board, that's one of the most important things we're working on. And, come on, guys, please. Can I have a motion to adjourn on that note? That positive upbeat note. We're adjourned. Kim.